today with a doll artist that specializes in BjDs. This is Sarah. Say it.
Sarah Sider.
It's just like my name. Nobody can pronounce that. Shahar Boyaya and Sarah
Sider.
Sider. Okay, German descendant, right?
I often get called Sarah Sider. So.
Cool. Well, you know, let's start talking about you and how you know. I know we all start dealing with dolls when we were young, right? We had dolls, but tell me how that inspired you to start a business, and tell me a little bit about your journey.
Originally, I started with Barbies when I was little, of course, and I enjoyed making clothes for them and redoing their hair and everything like that. And so eventually that translated into, at a later date, I wanted to do that professionally. I was looking on eBay and I saw some customized Barbies that they sell on eBay. And I saw it and I thought, I can do that. And I enjoy making doll clothes. I just didn't really have an excuse to until then. And so I bought some Barbies and I redressed them and restyled their hair, and I sold them on eBay very successfully. And I found
so they would sell right away?
Yeah, they would.
Nice.
And you know, I'd pay $10 for a Barbie doll and I'd go and sell it for $200, and so I thought it was pretty nice. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I started working on bigger fashion dolls, and those were a little bit more of an initial cost, but then I would resell them for a larger amount, and so it evened out. And so I did that for a while, and then I ran across the ball jointed dolls, the BjDs, and of course the initial investment in those was so great that I wasn't sure if that was something I could get into.
Did you get the same shock as I did? Because the first time I saw the price of a BjD, I said, what's going on here? Because that's pricey.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a doll.
Definitely, it was a little bit of a, it was an initial, I want that, and then I saw the price and went, maybe not.
Tell me a little bit about the process of you making the BjD.
Alright, usually I start with a polymer clay, which I usually use Super Sculpey, but recently I've started using Pro Sculpt, and I like both of them for different purposes. But I'll sculpt the pieces, and then after they're sculpted and cured so that they're hard, actually, as a note on that, I don't pre-drill any holes for the elastic pathways. With the ball jointed dolls, they're all strung with the elastic, and so they have to have pathways going through all the parts to be able to string it together. But I don't do that because it's a lot easier to cast it without those already drilled. I like to make my mold boxes out of Legos, because then I have the most...
Really?
Yeah, I have the most versatility because I can fit it right to the...
So instead of using cardboard, you put a Lego box together.
Yeah.
And you steal that from your kids, probably, right?
Yeah.
And then you will pour the silicone there.
Yeah, cool. That way I can fit it right to the size of the box. Now, occasionally I'll have an angle like this, for instance, and for that I used a piece of cardboard inside of the Lego box to give it that angle. But most of the time I don't, and I just use tape to put it in place. I couldn't resist them, and so I eventually bought a couple and customized them. So that I could try it out and see how well it went, and it went okay. I did make a profit. It just wasn't as big of a margin as with the other dolls. So
in this moment you were doing what? Face up and the dresses?
Yeah,
and then you would
costumes,
resell the doll?
Definitely, yeah. And so I did that, and most of them went for around the fashion dolls for around $300 to $500, and then
What year was that?
That was like 2004 or 5.
So before the recession, okay?
Yeah, and during that time, my highest selling one went for $1,600. So, but most of them were around the lower range.
Right.
Eventually, when I got to that point where I decided to sculpt my own dolls, I decided to just go for it and try it out. But I had a couple of ball jointed dolls that I had purchased to kind of figure out how the joints work.
So you put them apart and...
Yeah, I kind of looked really close.
And where do I get this kind of elastic?
Yeah, I tried to get into the process of it all, and the first one I tried to sculpt was a really big one, which was a big mistake to take on something that big initially. But I have a very awesome father-in-law who's a dental technician, and he had all the he didn't have the resin, but he had all the silicone and all the space to do it and everything like that, and he sponsored me being able to do my first bunch of molds and things like that. It was a big learning process. I made a lot of mistakes.
All the time you didn't buy books, you didn't have a teacher, you were teaching yourself by, you're a brave woman.
It was just a trial and error thing.
And did you have any kind of data that would, first of all, if you say, okay, I'm going to make dolls to make money, that's usually, they don't go together, right? That's not and it's not a traditional profession anyway. It was just a hint that you had that it would work, or did you have any solid data, or no, I think it's going to work?
I was just observing what was happening with the ball jointed dolls that I saw. I'm always watching for trends, things like that. And for instance, the fantasy movement that came in before Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings and things like that, it wasn't that big. There were people out there that liked it, but it wasn't really that big.
Yeah.
But I loved it ever since I was little. And so I always felt like eventually this is going to get big.
So you were doing the molds and you were the trial and error. And you had a hunch that because of your presence in online forums, this is growing.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
Yeah,
okay.
And I already had somewhat of a following from my artwork. I've been doing fantasy artwork, fairies and mermaids and stuff. I've been doing that all my life.
In which media?
In colored pencils and watercolor.
Oh, nice.
And so I felt like if I released a character that's in 3D, 4D, whatever you want to call it.
Naturally they will want that.
They'll most likely follow me there. Which happened quite a bit. So there were several people that crossed over that were collecting my artwork that are now collecting my dolls as well. So they kind of work together. And that's why I formed my company. I called it The Mushroom Peddler, to kind of encompass the realm of all my artworks, not just my sculpting, but my artwork. I will take my piece, set it in the clay.
Oh, just like a support.
Yeah, well, I'll set it in the clay, and I'll make sure that all the edges, like in the eyes and stuff, are filled in, so that when I pour this half of it, it won't go inside of the head, basically. Okay. And so then I'll pour this side, so it'll be turned like this with the box around it. And then after that's cured, I'll flip it over and I will remove the clay. And it basically looks like that after I remove the clay. I make sure I put keys in there so it fits together. And after I do that, I take some Vaseline and just brush it with Vaseline, because silicone, the only thing it really sticks to is itself when you pour it. And so you have to put the Vaseline there so it'll separate afterwards. And then after that's done, I'll pour the other side. Okay. And so
how many pieces does it last? Until you have to make another mold.
This particular silicone is really sturdy. I haven't had very many molds degrade over time.
Oh, nice.
The only time they really degrade is if I have a really thin area and it tears.
Okay.
But
other than that, it stays.
Other than that, I haven't had them give me any trouble. This particular silicone is really a high-grade silicone. It's dental. Since it's a dental grade silicone, it's really high quality. But I do that, and then once I do that, I have the piece. Sometimes I'll get air bubbles and things like that. This is a miscast, is what I call it, where it didn't quite pour correctly, and then I have to look at my mold and find out why did it give me that air bubble. And so then I have to create a vent or something to let the air escape. I did a bunch of sketches until I came out with one for my little turtle, which I really liked the shape and the design, and so I decided, well, that's the one. And so I started sculpting that one, and I finished it. It took me, I don't remember exactly how long, but it was approximately 6 months
to finish
to do that one, with a lot of mistakes along the way. Like one time my clay, when I had the face almost complete, I baked it and the clay burnt so bad that it split a little bit. And so I wasn't watching the time well enough. But so I had to do some repair on it and things like that. So there were a lot of drawbacks along the way, but I was determined, so I kept at it, and eventually it was finished, and I put it on which I use Etsy. That's not my only source. I also have my personal official store now, but I still use Etsy. And I put it up on there, and I sold, I think, 6 of them. So for doing them myself, I thought that was pretty good.
In what kind of period did you sell those 6? 1 week?
It was in a month's time.
A month? Wow.
Yeah, in a month's time I sold 6 of them. And I was giving everybody a quote of about a 2-month wait to get them to them. And so I got those ones done over that time, and then I had another doll that was a cat that I decided to do as the next doll. So I put it up on the website again, thinking, oh, I'll probably get 6 or so again. And I had about 40 of them ordered in that month's time. And I went, oh no, how am I going to do this now?
Everybody wanted before Christmas?
No, everybody wanted them in 2 months, because that's what I thought. Because of the
okay.
turtles, I had 2 months to do 6 of them. Now I had 2 months to do 40 of them.
Wow.
And I did my best.
You were doing the happy dance. I'm into something good now.
It was a lot of money, but it was a lot of stress, because I had to be working full speed ahead trying to get all those done.
Let's not forget you're married with 3
exactly
very young
married
children,
with 3
right?
young children.
Yeah.
So luckily I have a very supportive husband. So,
nice.
so he's been really good through this whole thing. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do any of it. But
how are things now for you?
They're doing pretty good. You know, the sales kind of go up and down depending on the month and what is offered during that time. And but it's growing. It's been growing ever since I started. It's been growing. The sales have been pretty consistent. You
just in Asia you have over 120 competitors, right? But that's not an issue, is it?
No, I find that more of it's about being unique and putting out dolls that are more character types and that can resonate with people so that they identify with the dolls, and cutesy seems to be very popular too. So things that are more that touch people's hearts, you know, things whimsy and.
So your average customer, how old are they? Men, women?
I find that most of my customers are women. There are quite a few men as well, though. The animals seem to appeal to them a lot. I've had a lot of guys that they'll see my dolls and they'll say, I don't like dolls, but I want one of these. So I think it's really funny to watch guys look at them. I have a lot of repeat customers. I have a lot of people who have at least 5 to 10 dolls of my collection. Nice. And they tend to come back, so that's always good.
That's good. How long does it take you from modeling to the finished doll?
The modeling takes however long the creative process takes. That's kind of hard to measure because each doll's different. But as far as this, once it's to this point, I can take it and make the molds. I usually do all my molds in one day. You know, save up things until I get several of them I have to do because it's easier to do them all at once. But this silicone, this particular silicone sets up in 5 to 10 minutes, and so because of that, I can create my molds, and then later that day I can actually start casting my resin. And so it's really a fairly quick process once I get past the initial sculpting.
So then you have a prototype, like this beautiful girl here.
Yeah, then once I do that, I will string it together to make sure that all the parts work correctly, and that things like joints will give me the range of motion I want, because with ball jointed dolls that's really important, that they can move around and pose. And then
so you even told me that with this specific one, you saw that here you wanted more movement, right?
Yeah, I wanted more movement in the ankle.
So then we went to the modeling part again for this piece, right? And then the finished one. This is gorgeous.
Yeah, and this is the same doll in her finished form. I don't know if you want me to pick her up, but there's the ankle, for instance. I added more range of movement there. So.
And then you sell them without the face up, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I sell them
both kit
blank.
Okay.
We just call them blank, and then so some people buy them blank. I always include a set of eyes because it's more fun to open a package with a doll with eyes than one that doesn't have them.
do you add the eye to the face or
they're put in with some sticky tack or something similar, and they have magnets that keep the face on.
Oh, so you don't have to have those. Okay, nice.
So that way the eyes can be changed to whatever color you want whenever you want.